People with disabilities are being urged to have their say about a government plan to improve access to public transport, and it's important they do. 1 in 5 people in this region are believed to have some kind of disability.
In South Cambridgeshire, for example, only 1 Hackney cab out of a fleet of 42 is currently wheelchair-friendly. The local MP is calling for more to be done. Mike Cartwright reports.
A spinal injury put Ray Lunsden in a wheelchair 6 years ago. He doesn't have a car, not all buses can take his chair, so he relies on taxis.
It's not guaranteed that they're all wheelchair friendly. They have to tilt me to get me in because there's not enough headroom.
Today, he's on his way to the railway station. He wants taxis that are safe.
You can swing around and even tilt back and hit the door. That happened last week.
And easy to get into.
They've got special wheelchair, it's with a lowered floor, and you drive in through the back, and then you get properly strapped down and facing forward, which is nice actually.
At Whittlesford Station near Cambridge, Ray's MP. Heidi Allen wanting accessible transport for everyone.
People like you and I completely take it for granted. We can pitch up last minute, no planning, jump on a train and off we go. But for people like Ray, it's really difficult. So the government have a consultation at the moment around accessibility of public transport, and I want everybody with any experience of this to feed into that, because that's the only way we're going to make improvements when people with experience say, well, hey, this doesn't work for me.
Included in the government's action plan, making sure there's enough accessible working toilets, improvements to railway stations like putting in lifts, and raising numbers of wheelchair-friendly taxis.
We want to make sure that we have got good standards of accessibility for our cabs. At the moment we have got about over 1,000 private hire vehicles, and only 25 of those are wheelchair compatible.
I've got you, it's all right. Arriving at the station, it's a little tricky getting out. Ray has to tell the rail company he's coming, so a ramp is ready to help him get on and off.
That was fine, yeah. It was a little bit close to the step, but so it was a bit getting off at the bottom, but apart from that, it was fine.
It's a consultation designed to help more people like Ray get mobile. Mike Cartwright, BBC Look East.
Well, the Paralympian Anne Wafula Strike spoke out for all disabled people after she was forced to wet herself on a train because there was no lavatory she could use. Earlier, I spoke to Anne, who was at her home in Harlow, and asked what she thought of the government's plans to improve access to public transport.
To me, I've always said that accessibility or access does not really mean that it has to be expensive. To me, it has to be a model that suits all. Because we are living in an inclusive world, and therefore everything should be inclusive. And to me, when anybody or when the government is talking about accessibility, then they just have to consider that it should be a model that suits all. You know, people with disabilities want to be included.
Do you feel that anything has changed since you were so open about your traumatic experience last Christmas time?
People want to be seen like they're taking action, or they want to make things better. But you know what, Susie, time will tell. You know, time will tell, because it's good for us to sit around big tables to have discussions and to have policies in place. But I think the main question comes to how is this going to be implemented?
Because part of the problem is not that the facilities aren't always there, but they're not always actually in working order.
You know, I think that is the most frustrating thing, because there's a toilet and a company or an organization or, you know, someone will tick a box to say that we've actually met this legislation, you know, to say that we have a disabled toilet in place. But is it in working order? You know, what the government will be proposing now, are they going back on the drawing table, or are they just sort of going to enforce or reinforce what is already in place to make sure that actually people deliver?
And how much of it is down to people's attitudes? Because we hear stories in that action plan of people trying to hail taxis that just don't stop because the person is in a wheelchair.
You know, to me, what I always say is, actually what disables us is the barriers that people put, you know, in front of us. And for example, if you're going somewhere and you try to stop a wheelchair and the taxi driver assumes or ignores you and just drives past, what does that tell you about the community or the society we are living in? It sort of just means that there's something wrong that is happening in the culture. Maybe we need to go back and re-educate people about disabilities or disability issues. And we have to understand that disability is actually here with us. It is staying with us. So the better we agree and get a grip with it, the better.
Anne Wafula Strike, thank you very much.